So if you're out there and you want to get started, start before you're ready.
And maybe that's you right now, but you will be way more ready once you finish this whole interview. Get ready and let's go.
What I really discovered after, a few bumps on the road was that being together with people, helping them express themselves, share their ideas, share their visions, and actually also helping them open up is what I truly enjoy doing. And that's what I've been doing the last 5-6 years, but working on it for at least 10 years. Yeah.
Cool. Working at it at least 10 years, you said. Like, what was the shifting moment or the moment that you thought, okay, this could be an industry that I want to work in?
Well, yeah, I had a lot of inner struggles, and, having spent a lot of years studying a certain craft, it took me some time to get confident into believing that I could help other people. It also took me quite a while to find the right mentors. There's a lot of advice out there. Some of the advice is good, but most of the advice I think will only bring you to pretty good or somewhat good, but to become really good and really know what's going on. For me, it took a while. I thought for a long time, I was looking in the past to find the right techniques, the right methods. Whereas later, when I met other mentors, read other books, I discovered it's much more about an inner thing than it's an outer thing. So that really changed my mindset. So I think that was the big shift when I started getting really good results with people rather than just pretty good results. Yeah.
Well, that's really great, and I like the way that you said you really needed a great mentor, because what we're doing right here is like we're two public speakers coaches, or the name is different, but basically we help people with communication while overcoming their internal fears in their mind or their internal belief system. And what we just talked also right before we started to record is that everybody resonate with someone else, or someone else explains it in quite a different way. So it's not about like being better or worse, it's about being unique and helping other people with it. So yeah, I really really like that. And about that belief system, about the fears, like let's be vulnerable also in this recording, because in reality this is the third, maybe even fourth time that we're recording this right now, because my internet connection wasn't really stable. I'm currently in Italy, and when they say they have good Wi-Fi, they mean there is Wi-Fi. So also thanks already for your patience to record. This is really fun to go through these adaptations and iterations with you. And to make that bridge, like I think presenting and public speaking is also about iteration and iteration. It's not about doing it one time perfectly and then you got it all. Like it's more like a skill. What is like the number one mistake you see quite often, and how do you solve that problem?
Yeah, well, I think there are a number of big mistakes people make. One of the big ones I think people make is, I want to share what I know. And for me, public speaking starts with listening. It starts with empathy. It's not about speaking, actually. This is something I've had to learn to become a better listener. Because why are we speaking? We are hopefully speaking because we want to help people. So we start by listening. What is their problems? And often people won't really know, not because they have a bad intention or they don't know, but there's a big job or a big task before we go out and speak or train people to really figure out what is their true problem. Sometimes they might know, but they're a little bit afraid to say it. And sometimes they won't know what their problem is. Like, let me give you a classic example. People come to me and say, I want to learn something about body language, have great body language and voice and tonality. So sure, we can work on that. But for me, that's kind of like icing on the cake. Let's find that inner passion, why you love your message, why you love those people. And if they feel your passion for them and for the topic, I think, learning us some stuff about body language is not what's going to, make it or break it. It's the other thing. So I think it's all about spending a good amount of time really learning your audience to get to know them. And I think people skip that so frequently and don't do it properly. They don't spend enough time on that, or they don't have the tools to really analyze their audience. So I think that's one of the big mistakes. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I have that often so many times as well. It's like, how do I use my hands? Is it like this? And then I'm like, I obviously want to answer the question, but it's not the basic foundation of you becoming a good presenter. It's about like, first of all, get your mindset straight. It's about knowing your audience, and also just be yourself, because often, at least that's what I see, people are so thinking about like, how does a perfect presenter look like, and how do I stand in that way, and how do I move in that way. But basically, and that's what we said in the beginning of this interview, is that, you are different, I'm different, and that's what makes us perfect, and that's what makes the listener perfect as well, as their unique strength and their authentic qualities in that way, so they can just be the compelling storyteller that they can be.
I totally agree with that. I mean, it's not about learning where to have your hands. I mean, sure, you can learn some basic stuff. Probably is a good idea to take them out of your pocket. But sometimes I'll do exercise with people and just have them chat one-on-one together. And then they laugh and they enjoy it and they connect. And, and then I look at them and say, you know what, you are so beautiful already. Your hands were doing all the right things. You were smiling, you were connecting. But then when they get up on stage, it's like, oh, I got to be perfect. And, I got to stand right. And, oh, my PowerPoint needs to be perfect and all that sort of stuff. Sure, it's different presenting to many people than one, but it's not that different. I think it's still about connecting to individual people while you might be speaking to 50 or 1,000 people at one time still. So I think we tend to often put on that mask that kind of detaches us from ourselves. And I don't think there is a perfect speech either. And I frankly think a perfect speech would be boring. Right? We like the quirky, the weird things. Sure, you want to practice. Sure, you want to be well-spoken, all that, but if you forget a single word, or you have to one time go over, look in your notes, it's not the end of the world. You can even have a little bit of fun with it. Sometimes if I need to look at my notes, I'll just say, you know what, we've come to the part of the presentation that I've forgotten, so I'm just gonna go look at my notes. And people laugh and they don't know if it's true or wrong. So I think it's all about having fun, enjoying it up on stage as well.
I love that. I love that idea. And you say it with such confidence. Like, is there, you said you have good trainers and great trainers, right? Like, what was a great trainer for you, and what was the tip that he gave you?
Yeah, I've had a couple here in Denmark that have helped me, that I've used. They're probably not going to be familiar to your audience, but what they worked on was more the inner, speaking from the heart, also dealing with probably a couple of issues I've had, and dealing with that. So I think doing the internal work is important, and also feeling, does it feel right to you? Does it feel good? You shouldn't go for the feeling where you say, oh, will people like it? Sure, you want to, put yourself in their shoes, but are you doing it because you're afraid or because you love it? Sometimes we tend to do things because we think that's the rule, those are the rules, but they feel wrong. If you feel like you want to move a lot on stage, be very active, you should do that. But are you more a quiet, introverted speaker who likes to be more, standing and, sharing stories and feeling the depth? I think that is just as beautiful as the Tony Robbins, whoa, everything will work. It just speaks to a different energy. And it's all about connecting to that ourselves. So I think, that those were things that helped me. Those were the trainers who helped me connect with myself and become a better understander of people, understanding their true problems, looking behind the lines, seeing, when they share something, well, it's probably not really that, that's maybe just the surface of something. Let me give you an example of a problem I helped some professors work on. After a while, we're probably 2 hours into the workshop. One of the professors says, Asger, it seems a little bit different what you do. Or she actually said, quite different what you do. And I said, yeah, you know what? But one of the problems your presentations generally lack is they're boring. Your presentations are boring. And I know you're presenting at scientific conferences, but you know what? They're just people as well. And I said, isn't it true that most people are bored at conferences? And they all kind of, yeah, you know. So that was kind of, you know, looking behind the lines a little bit and getting to know what their true problem was. They couldn't have told me that, I think. But it shifted the energy, and the presentations became way better because now they focused on we should have fun as well and make it a little bit more human. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip, because that's what we as humans also relate with. It's not about being perfect. It's about the mistakes you make, or the way that I can, you know, see myself a bit in you. So yeah, I completely agree with that. It's like just being human, but it also sounds very easy, and at the same time, not that many people are doing it right now. Like, what would be your transformative, or like first step for the audience listening right now that want to be more human, but in a way they're not? So something is holding them back. What would be your number one tip for that?
That will be to feel yourself. When you go on stage, just take that moment, you know, how do you feel? If you watch speakers like Barack Obama, other great speakers, when they go on stage, they're not just like walking on stage, hey, I have a great message I want to share today. They take their time to feel themselves a little bit, because when I give myself permission to feel myself, I allow you to feel me, and I get in contact with me, and it becomes a much better talk. I mean, I'm sure you've been with people where you've been like, relax a little bit, chill out, man. You just kind of let a little bit too much out of your body. And so we need to be calm on stage and allow ourselves to feel ourselves, because when I feel myself, I give them permission to feel themselves. So I think that would be my first tip. It sounds a little bit woo-woo kind of thingy, but allow yourself to feel yourself, and you're going to have a totally different experience on stage.
Wow. Well, it really hits me as well, because I recognize myself in this. Like, I've done a lot of presentations and I coached a lot of people, and still in my personal, you know, my personality, or just like how I work as a human being, I tend to be very fast, very expressive, very outgoing. And that's really awesome, because that is just the way I am. So that's my not no protection there. But on the other side, it's sometimes okay, take a break.
Sure. But I
Awesome.
think that's a great energy. But sometimes I see, you know, highly, you know, energetic speakers, they try to, you know, push themselves down a little bit because it's too much sometimes, I think. But it's beautiful when you allow that energy to go with it. You can even bring the introverted with you, like, because there's something beautiful what you do that they also admire. And just as when you might see an introverted speaker, you're like, yeah, sure, maybe it's, you know, not too bad to step back once in a while and rethink things. So I think all the energies are beautiful, and that's why I like listening to different good speakers. But of course, some will speak more to one than other speakers. So go with that energy. Don't hold back.
Yeah.
That's my advice.
Yeah, it's the balance, right, between okay, using your unique strength and utilizing it in a way that is actually compelling for the audience. Because also what you started with is like, it's not about you sharing your idea, it's about sharing the idea for others, or sharing your content with others. So it's not always about completely doing it in your way, but then utilizing it in a way, or using it in a way that's also compelling for others. And I really like the balance of those two, like what you said in the beginning and what you're saying right now is like, be yourself and think about the audience as well. And then there's like this middle ground where magic happens, I think.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful to look at it that way. Yeah, so we're not there to share our ideas. We're there to change their ideas. We're there to share our knowledge. We're there to change their knowledge. And that's where it starts. It starts with us meeting them where they're at. I used to have, when I started back earlier, I went on stage because I wanted people to like me. I wanted that applause. I wanted them to feel, he's awesome, he's good, you know, he's amazing. But that's not going to bring you very far. When you can share your message and be okay with and feel, you know what, this is something I believe in, and they can feel you're there to help them. That was also one of my shifts, you can say, as a speaker. Mm.
So it's not about you telling your story, it's about you telling your story for
You
the
tell
other.
your story so they see their story.
Yeah,
because when I share my story, you hear your story, right? It has to be that way. So you want to find the stories where you think the audience can see themselves in it. So for instance, one time I went to a great speaker. Was the first time I went to a real proper training with a professional one. I was there 3 days, and he shared amazing stories about how he started, and his first audience, he had 4 people, and then he was joking. I said, at one time I even had 5 when the cleaning lady came in. And I was like, it's kind of like me struggling just to get 5 people in the door listening to me. And so he was sharing his story. I laughed, and I could recognize myself in it. And then I thought, okay, if he had been there at that place, and I was looking at him now with maybe 100 people in the room, all paid, then I can probably get there as well if I follow his advice. So when we share a story, we just actually help other people relive their stories.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I often also say this with the terminology of like mirror neurons. You probably heard of it. And it's like, for me, it's so fascinating because what you said before, like with the advice you gave, it's like, it sounds a bit woo-ya. And for me, I know when I heard that advice 2 years ago, I would not have accepted that, because I tend sometimes to be very rational, and I want to have proof of stuff that I can use before I even try it. It changed throughout those 2 years. But what I needed to hear 2 years ago is that it's actually based on science, because the way our brains work is that we literally resonate, like our brain literally fires up if someone talks about something that is in storytelling format that we can recognize ourselves in. And I sometimes even explain this with like a spider web, like when you just tell facts, or it's like, the boring conference that you were talking about. It's like our prefrontal cortex just like, buzzing a bit. But when the guy that you were just telling about, like the one that had like 5 people and the cleaning lady came in, and you feel it and you resonate with it and you see it in front of you, you can visualize it, you create all this neurological pathways in your brain that is basically like a spider web. And then if you see what holds more, like this one dot or this whole web of connections, it's obviously the web of connections. So that's also what I really like, is like what you're saying is it makes so much sense because it's based on science. So also for the rest, like the rational people out there, it's really cool to try it out, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I think most decisions are probably made unconsciously, and we just justify it logically. I mean, it, I know it. Sometimes we want to do something, or and we find a reason, or we don't want to do something, we find a logical reason why not to do it. We know that it'd probably be good for us to do it, but we can always find an excuse. So I think it's about speaking to the emotions, and of course you want to have a little bit of information so you can rationalize it, and also speak to that logical brain part. But I think the big problem arises because in school we tend to work very logically, whereas a talk, sure, you want to have some logical arguments, but you also want to have some emotional arguments and have that connection. And for me, a good talk, a really great talk, is not about having, here are the 20 things you need to do to be successful. It's really just about changing people's belief system so they believe in themselves, give them some sort of overview, where to look, and then maybe 1 or 2 things they can take with them to start doing. Because I mean, if you want to go to a mountain, the top of the mountain, I mean, it's impossible to explain every single step. Just, give them that belief that they can get up there, and then show them the bigger picture. Maybe you want to go in that direction most of the time, and then set them up for the first, half day or whatever, and then they will discover the next path along the way. And then you can guide them from there. I think people tend to give too much information, and we just become overwhelmed and do nothing.
Yeah, strong one. And also with the public speaking, like we talked about it before, it's like a skill that you want to learn. It's not like it's not like an exercise that you do. It's not something that becomes natural within one day, but it's like the single steps, just like you told us before about your own journey. Like if the guy with the 5 people in the audience and within the cleaning lady included can do it, then I can do it. And step by step, you become better, you become more comfortable because you do it more often. You make mistakes, but you learn from it. And that's really cool. It's like with the analogy of the mountain, like also like the skill can be the mountain, and then you take small steps every time because of practice, right?
Yeah, you get further, and there's no peak to that mountain, unfortunately, because you never get there completely as this journey, right? It's not like 2 + 2, you have learned and it's over. So yeah, it's just doing it a lot, getting some feedback, getting feedback from people that are further than you. Of course, it's also nice to ask your audience, but sometimes they can't give you the proper feedback why they did something wrong. Let me give you an example of someone I trained a while ago. I trained her how to have better eye contact with the audience and actually how to move on stage. And then she had to give a talk and the audience was like, wow, you're way better. What happened? But the audience couldn't see it. They just knew I liked it more, right? So yeah, I think for people out there looking and hearing this, find someone really good to get help from. It doesn't have to be Tony Robbins, but just someone that's a bit further than you.
Yeah, that's beautiful, because in a way everybody can learn anything. I highly believe in that. But if you ask help, you will be faster.
You'll be faster, plus you won't waste your time doing things. Plus, there's so many benefits to having a coach. Plus, they will show you the way. Plus, they will keep you accountable. The times I've moved the most is when I've paid the most, because I've put in money, I've invested. So let's say I put in $3,000 or euros to a program. I'm not going to be like, yeah, let me just see what it's about. I'm going to put in the work. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do pretty much everything he says, because first of all, I believe in the guy, but also, you invested. So sometimes you do your audience or the people you train a disservice by charging too little, because they probably won't invest enough time and effort in it. So having a coach is just amazing. They keep you accountable. They move you up the mountain. They show you the path. They believe in you. And when you're stuck, you get help. So, I mean, I was probably waiting too long time to get help. I would say that would be my number one thing I would say to people. If you aren't getting help, you're probably not moving very fast ahead. And if you look at the top people in any industry, just any industry, we can just take sports stars, for example. So they all have coaches. For example, Cristiano Ronaldo, I read his story when he came to Manchester United and started playing. Most of the people there, they didn't have a personal coach on that team. They had coaches that would help, the team. Maybe there would be a coach, physical coach, helping 4 or 5 people. But Cristiano, he came with his own chef. He came with his own physical therapist. He had 4 or 5 individual coaches for each area. Most of us don't have the money to hire people to do that, but just the principle of having someone help you. And I mean, if he's doing it and other people that are way further ahead, they all have coaches, trainers. Why do we believe if we're not that far, we can do it ourselves? I think that's ironic.
I think that's a great tip, honestly. Honestly, because you have such an amount of years in your life, and you have also your goals that you want to reach, and how can you basically jump ahead or kickstart your progress because someone else there already did it. I just read a really interesting book. I don't remember the name, but it was about belief system as well, like our own thoughts. And it sounds maybe a bit spiritual, but it's very interesting. Our thoughts are not new, like they're recycled, was they said, because all thoughts already were thought before you. You just don't know from whom and when and where, but thoughts are not unique in their way. The fears we have, the belief system we have, someone else has it too. And someone out there was able to transform it into a positive way. So why not reach out or really put time in the people that already know the stuff that we don't know yet but want to learn, so they can help us and you don't have to figure it out by yourself. It's really, really interesting. And also the way you explain it really it's a really cool way of doing that. Really cool.
That's
And
interesting to hear. Yeah. Well, when you said that, when you said every thought has been thought before, one thing I say, every story has been told before. It's kind of the same principle. When people say, "Oh, my story's not worthy to tell," yes, it is. I know it's been told before. Not exactly that story, but the struggle you had, the inner insecurities, the challenges you had, they've all been told. But they want to hear it from you. They want to connect with you. And
wow.
wow, yeah, me too. Okay, maybe I can do it. Oh, you were like me? Yeah, you were. You are. And then we connect, and then we move on. So I think it's along the same path.
Wow. I love that. Honestly, I love that, because that's also what I hear so many times from people, is like, the vulnerability is hard, and going out there feels hard because why do people want to learn it from me? Or I've been so enthusiastic telling it so many times, I feel almost annoying for people coming from me again. But in reality, it's exactly what people need, right? Like, you just resonate with some people and some you don't, and that's fine. You attract those you want and repel those you don't work with, because they don't resonate with you as a person, and that is absolutely fine.
Yeah, completely. And sometimes what happens is also people think, oh, I'm not that much of an expert. Yeah, but the thing that happens once you become, maybe so big that then you start like, that couldn't be me, or you get so far ahead that people won't hire you. They will hire someone else that's like, oh, okay, they connect more with. So we can't all have Tony Robbins as a coach. And frankly, yeah, so I think we all have advice we can give people and help people with. So yeah, we shouldn't be afraid to share it and share our knowledge. And yeah, and if people don't enjoy it or aren't helped with it, that's okay. My mindset is, if I go out to the audience, I know that there will be probably some people that aren't ready for the message, or maybe let's say they've heard it before, they are further than me. Okay, no worries. But I hope and I believe that there will always be people in the audience that can use it, and then that's okay. I'm not responsible for their learning. I can just share my message, my advice. That's the only thing I can really do. And then people can use it or they can't. That's not really my choice. So I think that kind of takes a little bit of the pressure off, that we have to always help the other people. We are only in charge of sharing what we know and doing our best with positive intentions. Yeah.
Wow. You are like a magical word machine. you find this really interesting sentences as like really good one-liners. It's amazing. Yeah. Thanks. And
yeah, I would love to ask you, because I saw you did the TEDx, and you've done a lot of design. If you don't mind, how do you use your design background and things you learn in TEDx to create? Because I'm sure with your design background, you probably look at presentations maybe slightly different than other people who maybe studied rhetoric or more the classical way to get into public speaking.
How do I see that? Like, actually, and that's very fascinating, it's actually the opposite, because what I see happening a lot is that there's like a shift of people in two camps, basically. Like, there's people who are enthusiastic and they just want to be authentic. I worked with people who actually put their shoes out and stand with their bare foot on stage just to feel the audience, just like what you said too, like, yeah, feeling themselves, connecting with themselves, with the audience. They don't rehearse a lot, they just flow. It's a really cool thing because they're very authentic, they're very real. But on the other hand, some presentations or conversation are spot on, and some are actually just not that good because they improvise, and sometimes they are on point and sometimes they're just not. And then on the other side is very black and white, of course, how I frame it now. But on the other side, there's people who just really want their solution to come out very well. So they practice the structure and they have a very thin line, and they created a script and they memorized, and it's a very good factual structure. And then they perform, it's factually perfect, but not a lot of people really engage with it or resonate with it because it's so told from a framework kind of perspective. And what my personal look at presenting or TEDx or whatever conversation you want to talk about is that you want to combine the two. Because in a way you want, or I believe you kind of need a bit of structure in your presentation to get your point across, because every presentation, conversation, or whatever is based on a goal that you want to achieve. And in order to achieve it, you will take some different steps. But on the other hand, you, just like what you said, and I believe that's so big as well, it's like you want to be your authentic voice. You want to be yourself. Like, I am here in Italy with not really working Wi-Fi. Maybe in the beginning someone just opened the door because they thought I wasn't recording. You know, that's just what I do. It's more improvised. It's more like really real because it's just what it is. Yeah. But you want the combination. Like, you want the combination of the two, where you get your goal but you flow as a person. And that's also what I believe on TED stages right now. I'm training a couple of them. We will do a cool event in 3 months, and everybody has a different approach, and everybody is on a different side of the spectrum. Like, some people are barefoot and some people have a completely completely written script, and it's about, okay, what feels good for you and how can you improve. And sometimes it's to do the script, go for the script, memorize it, and get the confidence that you can do it, because that's what is important to them. And then shift a little bit to more flowing and authentic. And then the people without shoes, put off the shoes if that feels good for you. Feel the floor, go there, feel the room. But also maybe put some bullet points down so you can remember the order that you're saying. So it's not like, and that's what I really like about this, and that's what I really like about the answers you gave also, is it's a skill. It's about the audience. It's about being you. And then it's about like finding your best version. So there's not like one way to do it, but there are some frameworks that will help in any way. And that you just need to, pull out of your toolbox in every specific moment that someone needs at that time. So that's my personal view on presenting. It's like, the spectrum of authenticity and structure, basically.
I mean, I totally agree. I work very much from frameworks. I give all my clients frameworks, but at the end of the day, I'm also very much like, hey, when I hear it, I need to feel it. So the framework shouldn't take over. But I think it's a great way to start. Kind of like if you, plan a good party, sure, you probably want to plan maybe some things, but when the party is on, it's all about enjoying it and going with the flow. Especially when you're a beginner, I think having a framework can help, because then I usually tell my clients, follow this framework fairly rigidly. When you get good, you strengthen the system and the weaknesses, and you know your audience, where you'll go out and talk, you change. But I see sometimes people, I think they change too quickly. Like before they've done their first major talk, I'm like, just follow the framework, maybe 5 to 10 times. You have a whole life ahead of you, and then make the changes along. That's what I try to do when I learn new things. Go fairly rigidly with a proven framework that works, and then change it, adapt it, because otherwise we become robots, and it becomes too perfect, like you said, right? And that's boring. But as a starting point, I think following a framework rigidly or fairly rigidly is a good start.
Yeah, cool. And I like your the extra emphasis you put on it. Yeah, great. And just for the audience listening right now, because I know we're already talking for half an hour, and I don't want them to put it in their calendar to be able to watch it. So I want to finish with one last question, and that's just an open one. Like, we talked about this topic for half an hour now, and there's now people listening that are so passionate to put their mission out in the world because they believe in it so much and they want to help people, but on some level they don't like communicate it in such a way that it's completely abundant and confident and perfect in the way that they know they can be. What would be one step that they can take right now to become better?
The best advice I've probably been given is start before you're ready.
Ah.
Give your talk even when you're not ready, because you know what? The day will never come when you feel it's perfect. Every time I have to give a workshop, a talk, I always feel, I could need another week. I could need another few days. Oh, I could see another mentor, get a little bit more feedback. I do those things. But even if I put in 10 years in one talk, there would still be something. So if you're out there and you want to get started, start before you're ready and get
wow. I love that. I love that. And I believe in it so much. And I can resonate it with like so much what we talked about. The Wi-Fi didn't work for a long time doing this interview. I'm very happy that it got stable right now. But there was a moment, Asger, and let's be honest with each other, that we said, okay, maybe we should reschedule. But I thought by myself, like, if I reschedule now, I will bump into this moment every time. And every time that I see your name in my calendar, oh no, I hope the Wi-Fi works. And I thought in this moment, I was like, okay, give me 5 minutes. I'm going to try. If it works, it works. And then you make it work. You have this cool conversation with you. I really want to thank you for that and for your patience one more time. So yeah, amazing. You watched it all, and now it's time to anchor in the knowledge. What was the one thing that stood out for you most? Put it in the comments, so you have to write it down again, and you will remember it better. And maybe throughout that process, you inspire someone else with the golden nugget you had. And while you do that, give a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, because there's way more inspiring stuff yet to come.